The worst human beings in this country are angry white women. You throw lesbian in there in the WNBA, and you're pretty accurate on that, too. I mean, let's be honest. The WNBA has been dominated by angry white and black lesbian women for 27 years, and no one's given a rat's ass. All of a sudden, white girl comes in, Caitlin Clark, and oh, my God, we got an explosion. Angel Reese, in a now-deleted tweet, took a shot at her. Asia Wilson, who plays for Becky Hammond, took a racial shot at her. Sonny Hostin on The View took a racial. Mike Freeman, Jamel Hill, all the same usual suspects took a shot. But Becky Hammond says, knock it off. Knock it off. It's not real. She says, knock it off. And if she says knock it off, then, oh, my God, we must knock it off. I mean, let's just go this route, shall we? I mean, I don't know. I mean, Becky Hammond says knock it off. It must be knocked off. Here's Becky Hammond.
My second question is about your comments yesterday. You had kind of a mic drop moment talking about how much the league loves Caitlin Clark and how there's no hate there. But there was one point where you said, even the black and white thing, it's not there, knock it off. I'm just wondering what you meant by that, because it's being misconstrued a couple ways.
Well, I think it's construed as some of our minority black and brown women are hating on her because she's white, and that is not the case. Let's take Caitlin out of the picture. What I think is upsetting is it's not about Caitlin. Caitlin, give her flowers. She's done stuff that no man or woman, black or white, has ever done in college basketball. Give that woman her flowers. But what it does is it has highlighted how black and brown greatness has not been celebrated or valued as much. That's what I was talking about.
Yeah, what a complete bunch of bullshit. I mean, Tiger Woods was celebrated and valued. Michael Jordan celebrated and valued. LeBron James celebrated. And what a bunch of bullshit. What a complete bunch of bullshit. Serena Williams, the list can go on and on. What a complete bunch of pandering bullshit. But again, Becky Hammons has to go into a locker room and deal with the dumbest, most hateful people in athletics, WNBA women. I'm convinced WNBA women are the dumbest women ever, the most insecure, the most jealous. And Becky Hammond could kiss my ass with that. You know, Becky Hammond became the it girl, right? ESPN put her on stage, and now she's got a mouth, and her mouth is just stupid. I mean, let's be honest. If you're going to look across the sports, 9 of the top 10 earners, Q ratings, are black sports people in the United States. Just stop with that stupid stuff. Of course they've been celebrated. You know why the league hadn't been celebrated? Because everybody in the league, you can't name one, was unlikable. You think Brittany Griner is going to bring eyes? You think Diana Taurasi is going to no, unlikable, angry. Look, the country is 90-some% heterosexual. The country is like 60 to 70% white. It doesn't take a math major to figure out that somebody that plays different, somebody that plays with the fire of Tiger Woods, the depth of shooting of Steph Curry, is going to appeal to us. Somebody totally different. But people like Becky Hammond, they just can't do it. They're trying so hard. We're supposed to knock it off, according to Becky Hammond, the black-white thing. Let's flash back. Let's flash back to last week's comments from Hammond and Asia Wilson. Here we go.
We love Caitlin Clark.
Yes.
There's no... I think she's amazing. I watched every time I possibly could. And our league loves her. This has nothing to do with... We're just doing our job. We're going to show up. Who is ever on the other team is on the other team. We don't really care. We're going to show up and do us. And so I think this narrative of like everybody hating on Caitlin Clark, and even the black and white thing, knock it off. It's not there. It's not there. So shut down the noise. And by the way, what is she, 22? She's a 22-year-old woman with a lot of pressure.
She's not perfect.
She's not perfect. She's a rookie in this league. Like, back off.
Yeah.
Back
She's learning and growing just like everyone else. I feel like that's what people don't give her a chance. This is growth. We tell our rookies every single day, this is new. You're coming into a whole nother new world and starting over. So it's the questions are only annoying because it's like she's young, she's a rookie. Y'all keep asking us these questions as if she's a grown-ass woman that's been in this league for years. Like, no, she's doing her job, we're doing ours. And at the end of the day, that's how we grow, is when we get better and do things like that. So, yeah, I'm just exhausted over the conversation because I know she's exhausted. I can only imagine. So,
And so far as the charters and this and that, I don't care if Kermit the Frog made the change. We've been fighting for this.
Becky over here, what? But for real though.
We've been pushing. I mean, I played in this league in '99, and we were traveling the same way. And I'm, like I said, I don't really care who's bringing this or who's bringing the crowds. What I care is that they're there and they're on the eyes and they see how great women's basketball is. That's what I care about, and that's a mic drop. Bye.
I mean, just how stupid does Asia Wilson look? How immature. Honest to God, look at that. This is a woman that said, well, you know, Becky Hammon's telling us to knock off the black-white stuff and sitting next to a woman that made it a black-white thing. Honest to God, this is like Biden. No, it's not what I said before. It's what I'm telling you now. No, these two clowns made it out to be a black-white thing. Certainly Asia Wilson did when she said her popularity, talking about Caitlin Clark, was because she was white and heterosexual. I mean, Asia Wilson right there. How immature is that woman? And this is what I'm saying about WNBA players. I mean, we're watching this in front of our own eyes, the insecurity, the jealousy, the ridiculousness, the racism, the sexism. And Becky Hammon is trying to knock it off. Why would anybody pay attention to Becky Hammon? Knock it off. How about you all knock it off? How about you all quit being idiots? How about you all whining about now your charter jet is too small? I don't care how anybody gets to work. Why do I care how anybody gets to work? But apparently we're all supposed to care how WNBA players get to work. And if we don't care how WNBA players get to work, then there's something wrong with us, particularly men. Now, the dumbest of the dumb is this woman here, Natasha Cloud. Here's Natasha Cloud on what really, really should happen. She's mad. I'm tired of hearing men talk about our league, knowing nothing about our history. Investor, shut up respectfully. Well, I'll give you your history, Natasha Cloud. Men are paying for your league. It's called the NBA, which is a men's league owned by men. Paying for your league. You want the history? There's your history. Invest. Why do men have to continue to invest? You've wanted this kind of attention for years. Now, you got to remember, Natasha Cloud is the same person that called America trash. Again, the dumbest people, the dumbest athletes. I don't care if somebody like over the weekend, somebody says, well, this one has a master's degree. Then they got it somehow, some way. But I'm watching Asia Wilson, and she's a stone immature idiot. I'm listening to Natasha Cloud going, the history. Men are paying you. Men are paying for the league. There's your history. You know, it's amazing. You wanted this attention. And now that you got this attention, you're immature, you're insecure, you're racist, and you're sexist. I don't give a damn what someone named Becky Hammon says. It's right there. It's been right there from Angel Reese, from Natasha Cloud, from your own player, Asia Wilson. It's been that way from your activists. And I'm guarantee you that Becky Hammon's a big fan of Jamel Hill and Mike Freeman. I mean, what are you, nuts? Tired of men talking about you? Hey, I don't blame you for being mad at Charles Barkley because Charles came out and said, look, idiots, quit being petty. That's all you are. And Becky Hill's leading the parade. I get it. She's got to pander to her team. I get it. She worked for Pop and was the it girl for a second or two on ESPN, and we're all supposed to jump up and down, stand on her head and shit snowballs because some little point guard from 1999 in the WNBA tells us to knock it off. I'll give it to you, Becky. How about you all knock it off? That's pretty simple. How about the dumbasses in your league stop being dumbasses? Pretty simple. You knock it off, Becky. And maybe your player standing next to you acting like a 10-year-old should knock it off. Then maybe you can move this forward. Caitlin Clark doesn't say nothing. Caitlin Clark isn't making it black or white. Caitlin Clark isn't making it sexist. She's just going out and balling her ass off. It's all you. God dang. What a bunch of bullshit. The great Bill Walton passed away. And here's why I say the great Bill Walton. You know, everybody my age When we first started watching basketball, and let's just say 10 years old, you start watching, you're paying attention, you're really starting to understand, 11 years old, whatever, who the players are and what they're doing. Bill Walton was on my TV every weekend, and I loved it. Back in the day, there was really only 1 or 2 college basketball games on. It was a usual UCLA fest because UCLA dominated, whether it was Kareem Abdul-Jabbar before Walton, Steve Patterson, and then, of course, Bill Walton. You saw Bill Walton. You saw Bill Walton take on David Thompson in North Carolina State. In fact, then you saw him lose an 88-game winning streak to Digger Phelps and Notre Dame, and you just couldn't stop watching. Then, of course, epic 1973, Bill Walton goes 21-22 without a dunk because dunking was illegal. Now listen to this. In the national championship game against Memphis, a team that had a few pros on it, including Special K, Larry Keenan, who went on to ABA fame, All-Star, whatever. See, Bill Walton was my first basketball idol. I had 2 basketball idols. College was Bill Walton first, then there were others. Basketball in the NBA was always Bob Love, number 10, Chicago Bulls. I always wore number 10. Then Bill Walton goes to the pros and he becomes a hippie. And I lose touch. Then he straightens himself out. And Bill Walton used to do this running down the court. So what did I do when I ran down the court? I did this. I'm not sure why Walton did it. He did it running down on offense, which I assume was either a signal for a set or telling them to get into their motion offense. But I would run down the court doing this. Yeah, I was 12, 13 years old. What did I know? If Walton did it other than smoking weed, growing your hair out, and wearing a headband, I probably did it. I had knee problems. Walton had knee problems. I had foot problems. Walton had foot problems. Walton was my idol. Never met Bill Walton. Never had the opportunity to talk to him through the TV one time when I was on the set at ESPN hosting halftimes and he was doing a game. But I had an epic 45-minute conversation at the Combine with Bill Walton. I was at the Combine. Walton was on the phone. Here is the conversation. It started at 2 o'clock. The show was over at 3. I asked Bill Walton a total of 2 questions. I introduced him. He went on. Asked a question. He went on. Asked another question. He went on. The interview with my producer, Kyle Knezovich, in my ear, ran through every what we call stop set. 12:20, 12:40, and 12:55. I literally had to tell Bill, look, Bill, you can keep talking, but the show is over and I got to go. But he was so gracious with his time. He was so funny. He was so, I'm not sure the right word. I don't know if it was spiritual or mushroom-induced, and nobody ever knew, right? But he was so, in my opinion, mesmerizing. I would sit there and go, man, this is pretty cool. I didn't know what he was saying. He was talking about the magnolias blooming and all the other. I had no idea, but I do know this. I listened, and I'm like, wow. This dude is whacked out. This dude is fun. This dude is brilliant. This dude is an intellectual. This dude is a hippie. This dude is everything you want rolled up into one person. But the one thing I did come out with, the one overriding thing, was this dude lives life. He ain't sitting on his ass watching it get bigger. Nah, he's out there doing stuff. And the other thing that I came across when I started really paying attention to Bill Walton was what a family guy he was. Man, all of his sons, great dudes. We all know Luke from the NBA, but Adam and the rest, they were just great dudes. You never saw his wife. You never heard about his wife. In fact, back in the day, Bill Walton wanted to die. He talked about it. He was in such excruciating pain, for a year with his back, I believe this is the way he told, well, I know this is the way he told it, so I believe it to be true is the way I should say it. Literally laid in excruciating pain day after day after day. He got away from broadcasting because he couldn't move. He couldn't travel. He couldn't do anything. And frankly, I couldn't imagine living like that. But he got through it. And then he went back to ESPN and became an icon in the broadcast industry. Whether people liked him or not, whether you liked him, whether you didn't like him, whether you thought he was rude to Dave Pasch, which he wasn't. They were friends, and that's the way Walton busted balls, and Pasch loved it. I know Pasch. I've worked with Pasch. Loved it. They had an incredible friendship. If you really listen to Bill Walton, what was really fascinating about his broadcasts were nothing to do with the game. Not a damn thing to do with the game. It was the history of the city, the history of the school, the history of the conference, the history of a player or two, the family, the background. Man, did he research. Man, was he an inspiration to me at that time to do more research. The game analysis was mediocre at best. In fact, ESPN was going to fire him. ESPN was going to fire him at one point. They won't talk about it today, but he was asked who should be the next head coach at UCLA. And he said Barack Obama. And then they asked again, no, seriously, Bill, who should be the head coach at UCLA? And he said Barack Obama. And that pissed the bosses, Seitzler and Schiffman. I don't know if it was Schiffman or not. I can't remember. It was Jay Levy. I don't know. But it pissed enough of the bosses off to say, look, we got to fly out there and explain to this guy that you are a UCLA legend. People want to hear your real opinion on it. And according to David Seitzler, who ran basketball at that time, they're pretty close to just firing him. But you can't fire Bill Walton. You absolutely cannot, because he brings too much. There was a time when they weren't going to renew his contract. There was a time when they said enough. But that time passed very quickly, and Walton stayed. And every time Walton did a game, man, you would read the comments. I hate him. He's horrible. I'm tired of him talking about the moon, the stars, the Grateful Dead. And then you would hear, I love him. He's a national treasure. He's the best to ever do it. More Bill Walton, please. You heard it both ways. And to me, that's glorious. To me, whether you liked him, whether you thought it was an act, whether you disliked, whatever, it was all great because it was Bill Walton. Now, I never went in a room with Bill Walton, and we always talk about larger than life. And there are people that are larger than life for a lot of reasons. One of the reasons Walton was larger than life, at least it seems to me, is he always had a smile on his face. Seems to me he always had that, he had fake teeth, kind of like me. You can tell a guy with fake teeth when they don't cover the whole mouth. Mine are like, these are so fake, I've gotten them knocked out. And Walton had the same thing. But he always had a smile. He had an incredible stuttering problem as a kid, was a very shy kid. But he overcame it, obviously, to be a guy that spoke for a living. He also was a fantastic volleyball player, and by all accounts, was the best volleyball player in the state of California. Now think about that. If you're the best volleyball player and the best basketball player in the state of California, what kind of athletes are you? Later on, people saw him, 86, he was the sixth man of the year in the NBA. You saw Bill Walton as thicker, bigger, kind of a bruiser. Boy, if you go back to the 70s, early 70s, when he was in college winning 3 times, he only played 3 years, 3-time National Player of the Year, you saw an athlete. You saw a guy that jumped that damn high. You saw a guy with impeccable timing. You saw a guy that caught the ball at the top of his jump, and with a 7-footer and long arms, that's pretty high. Speaking of 7-footer, Walton always wanted to be listed at 6'11". He thought 7-foot folks were dorky. He thought they were dorky. He thought if you were 7 foot, you were kind of a dork. And he never wanted to be listed at 7 feet. He always fought it. Always. You see Bill Walton's achievements there at Naismith Hall of Fame. I can't believe he was only a 2-time All-Star, but he was so banged up. 2-time champ, 2-time All-NBA, 6th man of the year, 2-time defensive player. You see all those things. But he went into Portland, and unfortunately for him, he just fought injury after injury after injury. But when right, he was the best passing big man of all time. It's fascinating. When Bill Walton won the national championship, a friend of mine was there waiting around the court. And in those days, it wasn't like it is now where you've got stages set up, confetti thrown. You won a national championship. You celebrated like crazy. Maybe they put a stage. I don't think they did. But a friend of mine, 2 of them actually, and they both verified this story. And I think this is great. Walton was an activist on campus. Walton was a pain in the ass to John Wooden. If John Wooden said it, Walton evaluated it. If something was going on campus, Walton went to it. If that meant he was late for practice, so be it. If that meant he left early from practice, so be it. That's the story I'm told. But Walton used to make John Wooden nuts. But what are you going to do? I mean, he was winning every game. He was the best player in the country. He was an indomitable force. After they won a national championship, about a half hour after the game, everybody had showered. John Wooden was kind of standing over there, and a couple of my friends were talking to him. They were both coaches. Walton comes out in his sandals after the game, puts his arm around John Wooden. Now think about this. Puts his arm around his coach, and he says, come on, John, let's get the fuck out of here. And my two guys are like, whoa, John? Not Coach Wood? Let's get the fuck out of here? Huh. They both verified it. And Coach Wood looked at the two guys and went, hey, what are you going to do? And away they went. A lot of different things, a lot of different areas, a lot of different layers, I guess people say, to Bill Walton. Famously, Walton, before a game, wouldn't talk to his partner, whether it was Pash or Roxy Bernstein or anybody else. Walton would always say, save it for the air. And he would go sit over there, talk to a parent, talk to an assistant coach, talk to a trainer, talk to the janitor, it didn't matter. But he wouldn't talk to his partner. He wanted everything that you saw during the broadcast to be spontaneous, and it was awesome. Rest in peace, Bill Walton. You were my first idol. Here's the problem with getting older. Problem with getting older is your childhood idols pass away. I don't like it. I don't like it a bit. Man, I liked watching Bill Walton play. Man, I loved hearing Bill Walton talk. Save it for the air. I can't do a Bill Walton. Nobody really can. Rest in peace, Bill Walton. Hey, this is disturbing news. Apparently, NFL kicker Brandon McManus is being accused of sexual assault in a new lawsuit alleging McManus assaulted two women during the team's overseas flight to London last year. Guessing there's not going to be the same backlash to this as there was to Harrison Butker. According to the lawsuit, two women worked as flight attendants on the Jaguars' September 28, 2023 Atlantis Air Worldwide Holdings charter flight, and they allege the flight quickly turned into a party as McManus and several other players disregarded the flight's attendants' personal space, air travel safety, and federal law. The lawsuit claims McManus recruited three other flight attendants to the party, passed out $100 bills to encourage them to drink and dance inappropriately for him. I mean, all right. I mean, I get it if he, was grabby and all that stuff, but just because he paid a couple $100 to somebody to join a party, I mean, how about the people that join the party? Hold themselves accountable. There's two things in this. Hey, look, McManus groping and all that, do what you got to do with the lawsuit. But so what? That other flight attendants or whomever on the flight, because they were getting paid, started drinking, started partying. I get it. We'll see what happens. Harrison Butker took the mic for the first time. I love Harrison Butker. I do. I really do. He took the mic for the first time since his commencement address that ignited discourse across the country, and he did not back down or retract. Good for him. Good for him. Did not. Do we have any audio on this?
If it wasn't clear that the timeless Catholic values are hated by many, it is now. Over the past few days, my beliefs, or what people think I believe, have been the focus of countless discussions around the globe. At the outset, many people expressed a shocking level of hate. But as the days went on, even those who disagreed with my viewpoints shared their support for my freedom of religion. In my 7 years in the NFL, I've become familiar with the positive and negative comments, but the majority of them revolve around my performance on the field. But as to be expected, the more I've talked about what I value most, which is my Catholic faith, the more polarizing I have become. It's a decision I've consciously made, and one I do not regret at all. If we have truth and charity, we should trust in the Lord's providence and let the Holy Ghost do the rest of the work. Our love for Jesus, and thus our desire to speak out, should never be outweighed by the longing of our fallen nature to be loved by the world. Glorifying God and not ourselves should always remain our motivation, despite any pushback or even support. I lean on those closest to me for guidance, but I can never forget that it is not people, but Jesus Christ who I am trying to please. Thank you again for being here tonight. To the heights.
There you go. There you go. Good for him. Don't ever back down to these woke clowns. Never. Never, ever, ever. Travis and Jason Kelsey. Travis, obviously a teammate. Jason, obviously a competitor. They chimed in on this. Let's hear from the Kelseys.
I mean, I've known him for 7+ years, probably 8+ years.
Yeah.
And I cherish him as a teammate. I think Pat said it best, where he is every bit of a great person and a great teammate. He's treated friends and family that I've introduced to him with nothing but respect and kindness. And that's how he treats everyone.
Yeah.
When it comes down to his views and what he said at the St. Benedict's commencement speech, those are his. I can't say I agree with the majority of it or just about any of it outside of just him loving his family and his kids. And I don't think that I should judge him by his views, especially his religious views of how to go about life. That's just not who I am. I think
it's always great to hear from people that really actually know people than to a bunch of people reacting to comments without really ever having met the guy. I think that the teammates' reactions with the Chiefs, Andy Reid's reaction, I think you learn more about people with who they are on a daily basis.
Yeah, of course you do. And, if you don't agree with everything that Butker said, I mean, I get it. You don't agree with everything, but if you don't agree with any of it, I don't know what to tell you. That's on you. I mean, honest to God, God dang. Everybody has to separate themselves, right? Everybody must separate themselves. I'll stand right with Harrison Butker. He's a Catholic guy giving a Catholic speech at a Catholic school to Catholic graduations. I mean, what do you want to do? It's exactly right. Now, whether you want to read into it like clowns, I don't know, like Michelle Beadle and others who told him to go F himself, hey, maybe Butker can do that. There are very few of us that have the length to go actually F ourselves. Very few of us. Maybe Beadle knows something about Butker that we don't. You know what I mean? Yeah. But anyway, to me anyway, when you look at what Harrison Butker did, it's absolutely nothing. I mean, we see worse every day. I don't hear Michelle Beadle or anybody talking about Tyreek Hill and his 10 babies and 30 years of life. I don't hear about from Michelle Beadle or other women that are mad at Harrison Butker, Chelsea Hannemer, and these other idiots. I don't hear none of them condemning the violence towards women that happened by P. Diddy and others. Of course, those stories all go away, but god dang, let a white dude espouse some Christian values and all the liberal white women come a calling. Chicken shits, all of them, if you want to know the truth. It's like all the WNBA women. Now they're backpedaling. Why? Same reason. Chicken shits. You do this. I've talked about this forever. Liberals will over put their finger in the air, see which way is the wind blowing, and attack. You know what I mean? It's kind of funny. I get a kick out of it. I do. Because, you try, you hope everybody jumps on board, and then when they don't, we'll go another direction. Like Becky Hammond. Morons. All of them. I got to tell you, Stan Van Gundy's pissed. Fat Gundy, as we call him, he's pissed. He feels like his brother, who got laid off after the 2023 playoffs, wasn't treated right by ESPN. And I'm going to tell you he wasn't. And Fat Gundy, who is remarkably dopey, he is mad. And he should be. It's his brother. And, you get replaced by Doris Burke. Doris Burke is the worst announcer of a basketball game I've ever heard. And I like Doris Burke. I've worked with Doris Burke. But I'm watching this Pacers series, and she's always whispering like she's smarter than us, and she's really got something to tell us. A guy could dunk it with his dick. And Doris Burke would go, well, that was a pretty good dunk. And you see his feelings are blah, 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 blah. I mean, horrible. And I got to tell you, and I'll say this with absolute freaking certainty, J.J. Redick is a humorless dolt. J.J. Redick is the smartest, or trying to be the smartest guy in every room. J.J. Redick literally in college had to have the Krzyzewski's daughters write out for him. Wake up at 7, brush your teeth at 7:02, blah, 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 blah. And that's the way he was. Well, now he's very successful in the NBA, got a great gig given to him. The DEI goes both ways. The DEI with the F-boy haircut, he didn't earn that position. He wasn't any good calling games, and he's god-awful, but nobody's worse than Doris Burke. Doris Burke is horse shit. And so Stan Van Gundy is absolutely right. He's 100% right. His brother got jobbed. Look, Mark Jackson, I don't know. He seemed like a humorless, self-important fool. And, of course, Mark Jackson, we all know to be a fraud. I mean, he's a guy that's the preacher, but he was hanging with hookers. You know, it is what it is. So I couldn't respect it. But I agree with Fat Gundy. I do. Jeff Van Gundy got treated bad by ESPN. Fat Gundy says he was hurt by it. I mean, he worked for them for 17 years, and it wasn't even just the fact that they made the move. I mean, they shit on him. Timing was awful. They waited until basically the NBA market in terms of coaching jobs, assistant jobs, front office jobs was already gone to make the move. And then they delayed on a buyout that would free him to work for other people. That's what ESPN does. That's why I got out. People go, well, you didn't go for a better job. The hell I didn't. Oh, are you crazy? Charlie, who'll join us, she did. I did. Hey, look, man, you know the writing on the wall. And at my age, I got to keep working for about, I don't know, until OutKick decides to get rid of me because I love this gig. But, I mean, after 17 years of being in arguably the best game broadcast booth in the business in basketball, that's not true. No, Trico and I, or Benetti and I were doing it, wasn't close, at least according to the ESPN guys. And being the kind of person he is, ESPN shit on him. This stuff happens in the business. We've all been through it. We've been fired and everything else. But there's ways to do it and there's ways not to do it. I thought ESPN was absolutely miserable to him after what he had given them for 17 years. Well, wait a second with the giving. Now, this is where I always draw the line. The dude was paid a S-ton of money. Now, he didn't give nothing. He worked for and was paid to work for the network. I always have a problem with that. When people say, oh, he gave to them. Well, hold on. He was paid. He was paid very well. He was paid very well to work very little. I mean, let's just be honest. I always compare things to cops and teachers and iron workers and steel workers and firemen, people that I grew up with. He worked very, very little and made a lot of money. So he didn't give them anything. Yes, the problem you have is that ESPN was protecting ESPN. And it is amazing in business, and actually it's amazing in coaching, how people don't recognize these things are a business. See, coaches like Fat Gundy, they get their little job, they get a little attention. They were the fat, dumpy kid going back to high school. They got a big job, so now they look down on everybody. When Fat Gundy was coaching at Wisconsin, he was cheating his ass off. I mean, honest to God, I called out one of their assists. I'm like, dude, this is a Big Ten. Nobody really cheats here. What are you guys doing? And then we whipped their ass, whether they had Rashard Griffin or Michael Finley or whomever. It didn't really matter. We were going to whip Wisconsin's ass like it was our job. That has changed. But Fat Gundy was cheating in the Big Ten. Nobody liked him at Wisconsin, including Herb Cole, so they got him out of there. You can bitch, whine, and moan about that, but that's business. See, coaches always think that coaching is the only competitive, dirty business that there is. It's not. Every business. Try waking up as a businessman that has to earn your own living by creating business opportunities for yourself. It's really hard. Coach walks in there, gets himself a 5-year deal, 500,000, whatever it was. Gets fired, he still gets the money. When I got into broadcasting, my brother told me, don't expect it to be a coaching contract, and it wasn't. So I get it, Fat Gundy. You're mad at how your brother was treated. But don't give us the nonsense at all that what he gave ESPN. He didn't give nothing. Give means I'm doing this and not receiving anything in return. Just shut up with that. ESPN treated him very well, made him a star, made him a lot of money. He was okay, not great, okay with coming on shows and doing things. In fact, Jeff Van Gundy, I've always liked him. I worked with him. But two things happened between me and Jeff Van Gundy. Jeff Van Gundy's sister-in-law was like a soccer coach at Bowling Green. I was a head coach at Bowling Green. I saw him. I said, hey, Jeff, you mind talking to the team? Yeah. I got the team there, and he canceled on me, which I'm like, all right, okay. And then when I worked with him, I'm sitting right next to him. And he was kind of being an insecure little guy. So I'm sitting right next to him, and I could tell I can read people. So I kind of wanted to engage in a conversation. And I'm like, hey, Jeff, in the NBA, it's different than college, blah, blah, blah. And he was fine, but producer got in my ear and said, hey, Jeff doesn't want you asking him questions. And I think it made it on the air. I'm sitting right here. The dude didn't have the balls. Hey, look, he had the balls to grab on Alonzo Mourning's link, so he's not a coward, but I'm sitting right here. So I was all right with Van Gundy, but don't even think to tell me that he gave them a damn thing. Hey, President Biden, he's lying again. That means his mouth is opening. Gave a speech at West Point and said he turned down the Naval Academy. Said he turned down an appointment to the Naval Academy where he purposely wanted to play football, purportedly wanted to play football. I'm sorry, he was speaking to, I was right the first time. He was speaking to Army West Point about how he turned down going to the Naval Academy because he wanted to play football. This apparently never occurred. There's no record of it, and there's records on everybody. Well, you guys hired this guy. Can't believe it. Here's your president.
Hypothetically, I was appointed by the fellow I ran against when I was 29 years old to the Naval Academy. I was one of 10. I wanted to play football. And the day I was supposed to go down for the interview, a classmate of mine who was also one of the 10 appointed to be chosen from, named Steve Dunning, came to pick me up. And I had found out 2 days earlier they had a quarterback named Roger Staubach and a halfback named Joe Bellino. I said, oh, I'm not going there. I went to Delaware. Not a joke.
There's no record of him being appointed to West Point or Naval Academy, excuse me. There's none. There is absolutely none. I mean, you just get up there and lie. That's unbelievable. But Trump said grab their... Okay, I don't care. This dude, I was appointed to West Point. I was appointed to the Naval Academy. I was a leading rusher in the history of football, and I went to 3 different churches before 8th grade. Before 8 a.m. class. I was born in the Latin, Chinese, Mexican community. Huh? Hey, thanks for being here. If you're an OutKick fan, you know we give it to you straight. Here on Don't At Me, we have a ton of fun. More content right here. And while you're at it, sack the hell up and be sure to hit that subscribe button now.